Good day, loves. Welcome back to the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast. This is episode 113, Shine Day. And today we're focusing on cultivating unconditional self-love and embodying your truest self in the process of creating those meaningful connections and healing in those relationships. Okay, so this is super important because when we're on a holistic health journey, you'll quickly realize that you cannot sustain in isolation, and eventually you will need to lean on your tribe and pour nourishment into your home life, important nourishment into your family life. This is something that I personally struggled with, especially, and it happens in cycles, right? But I wanted to make sure that we cover this because this is something that can either make or break your consistency when it comes to holistic health. So, if you don't know who we are, good day, love. I'm Coach Tensi.
I'm Coach Soul.
And we are Ufulu Child. Ufulu means freedom. And that's what we're getting into. We always cover one of the 5 steps in our 5-prong healing system for holistic freedom. And today is Friday, so today is Shine Day.
Yeah. And shining, shine is an acronym for sharing honest, insightful, nourishing expressions. So shining is about sharing. And so how self-love connects to sharing, or let's say shining, because shining is also really a visual metaphor, right? Something that shines doesn't shine on itself. Something that shines outwardly from itself. And the viewer reaps the benefits or receives the benefits of the shining. And so how self-love connects to the concept of shining is, or the behaviors of shining, is by way of self-awareness. So that's the kind of self-love we're talking about, not necessarily vanity or ego boosting self-love, but self-awareness, taking time to listen to your heart, your spirit, to act on behalf of the best version of yourself.
Yes.
That's what that means. And so how that greatly shapes and maybe reshapes for a lot of us the way that we connect with others.
I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because oftentimes when we talk about unconditional self-love, or you hear that, it tends to be through the lens of you right now with all of your fears projected onto everything, and even yourself, everything else, and even yourself, and it doesn't quite get to the root. So you from the past may make a decision that you would consider to be, that you then would have considered to be self-love, but it was no different from just selfishness, because it was just maybe it was just a momentary thing that you did that had no lasting impact years down the line, or the impact years down the line and it ends up being negative. or detrimental to what you truly would like to experience when it comes to freedom in your own life. So if it's in conflict with your truest vision of freedom, then I can't quite say that it's truly unconditional self love.
So, what's the power of unconditional self love? Well, first of all, uh, unconditional self love is developed as you develop an unconditional momentum, if you will, excuse the words, in expanding your self awareness and learning yourself, learning why your autopilot reactions are what they are currently, um, which is called knowledge of self, right? And expanding knowledge of self and self awareness, you can develop a momentum for checking in with yourself, with what you know, and expanding and learning more about yourself, and acting less on behalf of the lower vibrations of yourself, acting more on behalf of the higher vibrations of yourself, higher aspects of your consciousness, if you will. Um, you can develop an unconditional self love where no matter what happens that leads to a failure or leads to a misstep or leads to somebody misinterpreting what you meant to say or meant to do and being upset with you or whatever, checking in with yourself that you keep coming back to regardless of what the external stimuli is, so that you remain bright in your shining, in your sharing with others. So that's what, you know, unconditional self-love is, and why it's vital for holistic health is because you don't get so wrapped up in the identity of the one that's very stressed out all the time. You don't get so wrapped up in the identity of the one that's so sad and so deep in the hole. You don't get wrapped up in the identity of the one that's confused and can't move forward. And reduced stress is, of course, very crucial to your connection with other people.
Yeah.
When you're very stressed out and you go to mend somebody else's wound, you may make it worse.
Yeah. And it sabotages the health journey because, like we talked about on previous episodes, and this podcast is, we've talked about cycle syncing so much and the power of our hormones and all of the things, but there is a hormonal hierarchy, and at the very top is a hormone called oxytocin, and this basically is kind of like the love and connection and bonding hormone. And so when we are building these meaningful relationships, and oftentimes it must come from, well, it has to come from this space of unconditional self-love and really honoring that vision of freedom, or else it is no longer fulfilling. It just adds to the stress. It's not as rich and joyous and vibrant as you would like it to be. And there's often this healing point to where you have to build a you'll find that you have to build a solid foundation that's rooted in what the meeting point between where you thrive and where your partner thrives, or where you thrive and where your kids thrive, or where, you got to meet those two visions together. So how do we embody your truest vision of freedom when it comes to shining and enhancing our relationships? So, what do you think? What does it mean to embody your vision?
Um, so you have to develop a vision before you can embody one. And when you develop a vision of yourself, you're not developing a superficial, or you shouldn't aim to develop a superficial self-image
Mm.
that is, let's say, surrounded by things that means you succeeded or something like that. Of course, that's fine, but
It doesn't stay
envision
there, right?
envisioning yourself as someone who responds
Mm,
to
mm, mm.
neutrality, positivity, and negativity in the most authentic and useful ways is a much better vision to develop, right? Of
Yes.
your vision of freedom, because the freedom is not necessarily from financial bondage, although, again, that's fine um, to be included in your vision, but the freedom really is from the mind.
Mm, that part.
And when you're free from your own mind, then shining, you can develop unconditional self-love in a way that turns into unconditional love for your fellow human beings, and like this life journey that we're all sharing it.
I was watching a podcast yesterday and it featured Dr. Joe Dispenza. Don't know if anyone's familiar with his work, but he often talks about this theme, um, my words, not his, of embodying your truest vision of freedom. And one of the things that he was stressing, and he said it many times before, his background is like over 20 years of studying the brain, and the heart, and what exactly are the pieces that are needed in order to bring change in your life. And literally, it's what he talks about is kind of like aligning your emotions, aligning your reactions, aligning your thoughts, aligning your words, aligning all of you with what it is that you truly, truly um, desire, what it is that you truly wish for, and not just now, but what would you like to also, how would you like to show up in your life, and what would that do for your relationships if you're able to show up with gratitude and fulfillment, and remembering that you're coming from a space of overflow, as opposed to trying again to whether it's be the people pleaser or assert your power in your life, whichever side of the spectrum you find yourself in. It needs to have that anchor. So yeah, I think that's a powerful little note. So when it comes to sharing honest, insightful, and nourishing expressions or shining, um, there is such an importance in honest communication, because one thing that you well know is that you can't build a deep, meaningful, lasting relationship without really understanding clearly what the expectations are, of yourself and of anyone else that's involved in that relationship. Like in our marriage, we need to understand, like, okay, what does mutual growth look like? What would we like to experience? Like in sharing a health journey with your partner, and sharing your holistic health journey with a friend or with a coworker or whoever it is, it's really getting down to, okay, how can we encourage our mutual growth and deepening that understanding? So
Yeah, and when it comes to honesty, just as a growing, developing human, you're going to start to gravitate toward people that you feel you can be honest with,
Mm.
and you feel are open to being honest with you.
Mm.
Um, it's an intuitive thing because you can't prove like everyday honesty, but you can kind of feel it. So um, you know how it feels when somebody's always honest with you.
Mm. Or, doing their darndest to be.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's that sense of openness. There's that sense of
Connection.
yeah. Yeah.
So in you embodying a vision of yourself that's always honest, um, and shining from a place of embodying that vision, that sets you up for like-hearted individuals to gravitate to you as well, as you gravitate more and more to people that are also practicing embodying a vision of themselves that's honest.
Yeah. And like when somebody opens up to you and then you all of a sudden feel like you can share from your heart as well. Like you can like it's a safe landing space. Like it's you're not going to get judged immediately. You're listened to, you feel understood, or at least the beginnings of that. So some ways that we can get to that is by practicing that active listening. And when we are really looking to cultivate that connection with community, it's really focusing on, okay, so what are some ways that we would love, that we need, and that we feel ready for or called to really start to cultivate these bonds. So again, we're coming from the thrive zone. It's always coming from that thrive zone where the love meets with the need, meets with the readiness, or the hey, this feels ripe, like a ripe fruit that you pick from the tree, and how juicy it is. It feels like yes. So needing those yes points. Yes, I need it. Yes, I love it. Yes, and yes. Yeah. So we can host gatherings or like with that focused goal in mind, anchoring in that purpose, kind of like anchoring in the freedom intention that we have. It could be like um, it could be something fancy like a wellness workshop or a meal prepping together, but it could be something simple as like a video call or a voice message where we're just having an open dialogue and having the opportunity to express. Hey, love, over here in Instagram land. Um, yeah, we are streaming on 3 platforms, by the way. Good day, Facebook, hey, YouTube, and Instagram. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much it that we have for you guys for today's episode. Pardon me.
Something I would love to um, leave you all with is, especially because it is the holidays, it's the holiday season, whether you celebrate or you don't, or you like, yo, this is all consumerism, which it is, or you're like,
This is pagan.
or however your stance is, the point of the holidays should really be, and the point of every day should really be to cultivate that gratitude. Because when we are looking to connect with community, and when we're looking to really connect in our personal circles and nourish those relationships so that we can go further and take them along with us in the holistic health journey, um, it's vital to create those spaces to share in gratitude. Because if we can come to gratitude, that is like the most one of the most healing frequencies. Like everything, every emotion has a frequency. Look it up, okay? um it's one of the most healing frequencies, and one of abundance. It's one of healing. It's one of embodying the truest, highest vision for your life. You will feel so much gratitude when you are really in that knowing and living your own vision of freedom.
Just to slightly bring home the point of gratitude being a healing and unique frequency for you to experience, something that you all should be able to relate to. You ever been sick? I mean, like really sick. You can't breathe out of one of your nostrils, and you have the fatigue going on, and the back of your head hurts. And then something or someone makes you feel gratitude. It could be 2 hours straight. You completely forget about being sick. You don't feel it. It's just not there. Why is that? That's because the gratitude frequency, the frequency of that emotion is sort of in play. And of course, something can remind you, or you could sneeze and then all of a sudden remember and then re-identify with the sick version of yourself. But regardless, I'm sure you all remember, especially in childhood, something, you're sick, you're experiencing this week long, 2 week long journey of healing from some sort of bug, and it's annoying and it sucks. And then, you know, um, I don't know, you get
Like my mama would make this tea and put on one of my favorite shows, and I would feel so loved because she brought the extra blanket and told me she loved me.
mhm, or you get like a present of some kind, and then you feel gratitude and you're able to play with that present. As a matter of fact, there was I had got a video game one time, a video game that my friend had before me, and I wanted it to be able to practice so that when I went to play my friend, I could be better than them. And when I was sick, I got the video game, and then I played the video game for hours and just wasn't sick. I mean, I was right. It was still sweaty and coming out of my nose or whatever, but
Detox pathways was open, trying to cleanse. Yeah.
I didn't notice it.
Yes, it's like the gratitude is reminding your whole being that the truth of who you are, because in all honesty, we really are that that same power of the divine flows through all things, and it flows through you as well. And if whenever you're in gratitude and you can cultivate those spaces of gratitude with the people around you, it's like all of you are coming into a state of remembrance, remembering that you have power within you, you have light within you that must shine, that will shine. And you can move from a space of overflow. You're not trying to fill your cup constantly. You're remembering your cup is already full. You're remembering your cup has always been full, but your attention was somewhere else, on the lack, on the disempowerment, on the oh, I'll never be able to connect. So in recap, okay, unconditional self-love is the foundation of authentic relationships. And the most important thing is really embodying the freedom, your vision of freedom. It won't be anyone else's, but your vision of freedom. How are you acting? How are you moving? How are you reacting? The truest version of you, and doing your best to embody that in your connection with others. And then lastly, sharing those honest and nourishing expressions of that to create that meaningful, lasting bond. Because without that, I mean, we look around and we done lost our friends. We look around and we don't have no new friends. And it's a lonely journey, and loneliness is one of the things that really sabotages any sort of healing journey, um, because you're literally believing in the illusion that you are separate from that power, that divinity within you.
All right, so we'll catch you guys on Monday for B Day, episode 114.
And Cynthia in the comments on Instagram says loneliness is spiritual death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. We'll see you on Monday, loves. Take good care, and we'll post a replay. Oh, sorry. Last thing. We have an event coming up. It's called Thrive Zone, and it's happening in January.
Oh yeah, okay? I told you guys we might have a link for it by today, but check in next Friday.
Yes. Okay. So it's going to be here in Austin. It's in person. So, make any arrangements you need to. We're finalizing the date. And before it was going to be on the 18th, but a person that needs to be there will not be available then. So we're looking at January 20th, which is MLK Day. This is going to be phenomenal. Okay. Phenomenal. We're bringing together healing music. Think the gratitude that you feel when you reflect on that truest vision of freedom. We're going to incorporate that into some music performances of some phenomenal local artists. There's also going to be a space for movement. So getting to move that energy of embodying that truest, highest vision of freedom for your life and moving into that literally with a movement session led by a phenomenal instructor that is also a working mom, and she's like all about body intelligence. She's great. And then also we're going to be featuring in there a reflection circle, reflecting on truth and connection and natural law. Yes, universal law, natural law, same thing. And we're also going to have some space for community art to come together and create something as a community. Kids are welcome. There's going to be some on-site child activities designated just for them. There will be someone that is on-site who's also a working mama, also on this holistic freedom journey, who will be tending to the babies. So you can bring them. You can bring your whole family. This is a family-friendly event. There'll be some refreshments. There'll be some resources, and anyone that gets a ticket will get a free gift that we will not disclose what it is because it's a secret. Oh, but it's so good. Okay. So that's what's coming up. And it's the Thrive Zone. Hey, love. Oh, yeah. Thrive Zone event coming January.
And there's one more thing. There's a movement session as well.
I mentioned it.
Oh, I missed it.
That's okay. Yes. And it's going to be great. So yeah. Stay tuned, y'all.
All right.
Mark your calendars for January 20th. And tentatively between 11:30 and 3:30. Well, we'll get the details to you next week. There we go.